Hello, my name is Dana Louise, and I wrote a book called This Is Gonna Sound Weird. Can you see it? It's my memoir. It's my memoir. And I'm new to this platform. So, mea culpa. I'm just getting my feet wet. So, I decided it was about time to start to read a brief synopsis of my chapters. So not really a synopsis. I'm just going to start reading the first 10 minutes of it because that's the time that we are allotted. So welcome, welcome. And why would you care? And why would you read? This is going to sound weird. Well, I've been a contactee and an experiencer since infancy. It started with the great aliens. And then after that, the whole paranormal, supernatural world started to show up. So finally, I'm coming out of the cosmic closet, as I say, or put it, and I'm bringing my wisdom to you and my stories. So thanks very much. I'm going to just start off with chapter 4, and we're going to go from there. So thank you. This is going to be a great summer read if you want something that's a little controversial and thought-provoking. All right. Chapter 4 starts with Turtle Island. So this, usually I start my chapters out with some kind of a quote. This one's a song, and I don't know if would get in trouble for singing it. Are there copyright things? Like, it's a song from Three Dog Night called Out in the Country. I'm not going to sing it. I'm just not going to. Out in the country. Before the breathing air is gone, before the sun is just a bright spot in the nighttime, out where the rivers like to run, I stand alone and take back something worth remembering. Doon, doon. Yes, I'm from the 60s. I'm that old, okay? I'm a boomer. What do you want? All right. And hopefully Three Dog Night won't come after me for money, because I don't have any Three Dog Night. I'll just take this video down. All right, whatever. Okay, so what do we got? All right, I'm going to give it a couple of minutes, all right? In my neighborhood, there was a small man-made lake that flowed into the Mississippi River, Lock Lake. I grew up playing along its shores. Back then, kids were allowed to freely roam down to the river without supervision. Probably not the brightest idea, you think? But it was the 60s. Things were different. This was before pedophiles and evildoers were invented, so kids ran around like wild things. After breakfast, everyone was generally kicked out of the house until dinner time, at least in my neighborhood. We were considered underfoot. To make sure we stayed outside, my dad put a fridge in the garage. You had to pull down the handle to open the door like an old-timey slot machine. Inside was a pitcher of Kool-Aid and a couple of Tupperware cups. That's it. Otherwise, you had to tug off the garden hose if you were thirsty. I actually like garden hose water. Lunch was at whose ever house you could get it, or you went home. My dad would give a long, two-toned whistle that basically called my name. Dana! The entire neighborhood could hear it. Everyone scrambled to their own family signal. A few relied on other parents' calls. If you hear Dana's whistle, it's time to come home. Otherwise, you went home when your stomach grumbled, or the streetlights came on. In the summer, that would be super late. We lived across the street from the lake. The only view of the water was from the living room. You couldn't see the shoreline. My mother said she assumed that the other mothers were watching over us when we played. Sure they were. In the winter, the lake transformed into a huge playground, making it possible for us to play with kids from the other side. Snowmobiles and skaters paraded over the ice. A small creek flowed into the lake from an upstream body of water that starts near where I live today. People used to swim there until fish carcasses started to wash up on the shoreline with some beige foam and solid black sponges floating about. More clues that toxic waste was being dumped from upstream. The Clean Water Act hadn't started yet, so it all flowed into the Mississippi River and down to the ocean. Still, we goofed around on the tiny beach and dragged some Barbies down there to play with. We'd make small fires, have mud fights, catch crayfish, canoe, sail, fish, and dared each other to crawl up the open storm drain until we chickened out. There were train tracks at the end of the block. A trestle was built over the connecting creek. Neighborhood lore said that a boy tried to cross the pass when he was sucked under by an engine and died. Did his foot get caught? Why didn't he jump? The story was probably fake. Boys jumped off the trestle into the water all the time. Kids left pennies on the track to be flattened. Mother Hems claimed a penny could derail the whole train. More kid lore. The last house on the lake had a huge hill, which was part of the bluff for the train trestle. In the winter, we would all slide down and fly across the frozen water. Other than that, no one ventured over there much. My grandfather, Arlie, Helen's husband, that's my grandma, was my dad's father. He happened to be a brakeman for the railroad. We'd run to the tracks to greet him if we knew he was going by. He lived some 60 miles up north in St. Cloud. Back then, that was far, far away. Chatting on the phone was a long-distance charge. The engine would slow for us to catch up. Dad filmed a brief clip of Grandpa waving out the window of the caboose as he chugged by. These people, these memories, life was bucolic. One spring, Turtle Island was pointed out to me. Don't get too excited. Even I was disappointed by the 3-foot blip of sand that barely rose out of the water. Turtles must have been seen setting themselves over there once, hence the name. The distance from the shore to the island was maybe 3 feet. It was ridiculously nothing, but to a kid's imagination, it was everything. Plus, it had a moniker. Impressive. The story begins with me exploring along the shoreline with a troop of other kids. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Not much older. Jenny Jo was probably with me. Again, no supervision around. A feeling came over me that up the hill, something was hiding behind the trees, watching us like a game. I stopped to concentrate. While examining how goofy this so-called island was, suddenly, poof! I wasn't by the shoreline anymore. I was up the hill, among the trees and the brush. We were not alone. For the first time, I clearly saw their skinny bodies attached to those big heads. They were smiling, laughing, moving about with a blink of an eye, a troop of grays. There was a lapse in time and space. One moment I'm at the shore, and suddenly, boop, I'm up the hill in the woods with aliens. Then, ping, I'm back with my friends down by the water, right where I was before. It was like being a chess piece that's picked up and moved about on the board, only something was wrong. I could feel that my lower back had a sharp, swift pain, like a shot. This was just above my tailbone, and to this day, there's an issue. It was as if somebody poked me hard with a stick. I'd been tagged. Not like in a game of tag, but physically being marked with a tracking device, like an animal. How could I comprehend what being tagged was? But I did. It made perfect sense to me. Playtime had been severely interrupted. At first, I looked up the hill to examine the brush. While still feeling their presence, the grays were no longer visible. I thought, if only I could stand there long enough, maybe they'd step out and show themselves. Because here they were in the daytime. Could we be friends or something stupid like that and play? I'm such an optimist. Nothing happened. So then I moved halfway up to check out the spot where I'd been just a minute earlier. It was clear, abandoned. The window of opportunity had closed. No, so close. It occurred to me that this might have been a different crew of grays, but they seemed so familiar and friendly, relatively speaking. Are we related? Are they our ancestors from the future? This had to be a different troop. Because why wouldn't they have tagged me when they had the chance? What am I missing? Say, why don't you go check out number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? She's out in the woods. We should tag her. I wanted to draw them out into the open, flush them out. I tried to convince the older kids to come to come out in the open. I tried to convince the older kids to go up and poke around. No one was interested because I was little. Would they have gone up there if I told them the entire story? Would they believe me? No, only my Jenny Jo would have listened. Only we were awake. Only we could hear, see, and feel. Once again, this memory was hard to hold on to, but I kept on trying. The proof and best reminder is the permanent mark in my rear end. It stung as I ran home. Playtime was over. When I got back to the house, I climbed up onto the bathroom counter to examine my backside in the mirror. I had to use a footstool to get up there. I pulled down the top of my pants and craned my head around as best I could without falling into the sink or back onto the floor. There was a deep dent above my buttocks. No blood, just red. For such a deep wound, the lack of blood was weird. It serves as a solid reminder to this day. No, I didn't fall on a stick or was attacked. I have since learned that others have been tagged like this while walking in the woods too. Another confirmation for me. As you know, this wasn't my only first tracking device, but it was the first that I knew about. There's probably more. And we'll just stop right there. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Find the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Did I say that earlier? All right, take care until then. Bye.